A transfer and a couple of ASU veterans on the defensive side lead the way at practice, proving that defense wins championships.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Sun Devils. I'm Parker Porrill, and I'm joined alongside Philip Mulford. And today we're taking a deep dive into the defense because they had a spectacular practice as of recent. And we'll also talk about transfer portal for basketball and really take a look at where this football program is about halfway through, kind of taking stock at what they've gained, what they've lost, and what we can expect in the coming weeks, coming months as we get ready for fall. But let's get started here with the first segment. We talked about defense winning championships in the cold open, obviously big aspirations there, but it is true. You need a stable defense in order to be successful in any league, but especially in this tough Big 12 conference. And it's looking like this defense is finally starting to take form, Phil.
We always knew it would, right? I have a lot of faith in Brian Ward, what he's been able to do these last couple of years. And especially there was this worry, all right? It's like, look, the offensive line is dominating the line of scrimmage. It almost doesn't matter who the running back is. He's going to go tear it up. We've had good days from Kyson Brown, from Cardae Mack, from Man Robinson, from Jason Brown. They've all had their great days. And it's like, okay, this is a problem. Our defensive line that has historically been really good at stopping the run is failing to stop it. But that seems to have been, at least today, has been curtailed a little bit. But I want to bring your eye to one big contribution. Because, we've been talking a lot about Clayton Smith playing wide receiver, playing tight end, whatever it's going to be. He has now been officially moved back to defensive end. He will be doing that, according to Kenny Dillingham, for the rest of spring. They put him in there at the very beginning because we think he can be a weapon. Just get him used to the offense. He's already spent 3 years in the system. But I think it was very immediate and very obvious, Parker. They bring him back onto the defensive line today, and all of a sudden things start getting shut down in a significant way.
Yeah, it's very clear that they were trying something out with Smith and they liked the look. But as soon as they added him back to the defensive line at practices, you see the clips, you see the reps. Clayton Smith is just such a vital piece of that defensive line. And every team that he's been a part of, he is just such a monster. And you see why. And there were a lot of questions from fans, and you kind of felt the uproar when Smith was being worked as a wide receiver. Fans were a little upset. They were like, what's Dillingham doing? But now everybody's calmed down a little bit, and they're starting to realize, okay, they were just trying him out. And maybe we'll see some looks with Clayton Smith as a wide receiver. But as you said, transitioning back to the defensive side, he got some really good reps, and he's one of the biggest freak athletes I've ever seen when it comes to the college level. And it's showing why. Another name I want to mention, because I think he will be quickly mentioned as one of the freak athletes, maybe the next season, or maybe even later this season. Who knows how his fall is going to turn out, but Owen Long. His coaches, especially linebackers coach AJ Cooper and Kenny Dillingham as well, have preached to his successes. Just coming in, he was the FBS leader in tackles last season at Colorado State, and he has just really signed that there's no adjustment needed going from the Mountain West here to the Big 12.
Yeah, he has been exciting to. We're not seeing his name a ton in the tweets people are putting out because there's been a lot of focus on Cutter Boley, who's going to be the next quarterback. Omarion Miller's one-handed catches, but we are starting to see some really glowing quotes coming out of a couple of coaches about how he is able to. Honestly, he might be a little bit too big to fill the shoes that Keyshawn Elliott has left behind, which is glowing praise. In fact, he's more instinctual. He's a more instinctive player than Keyshawn Elliott was, which is that is fantastic news. Our linebacker core at times, Sun Bowl, a little bit thin, much like our secondary. So to see this guy coming in, and again, he's not the ball hawk, right? He's not the guy that's like making the defensive play that gets him called out, but having this guy in there, as this quarterback of the defense, already we are starting to see some pretty significant benefits of that.
You mentioned the instincts, Phil, but how about the athleticism as well? That's something that the coaches have touched upon as well. Not saying that Keyshawn Elliott or other linebackers previously haven't been as athletic, but all the coaches, when they're ever talking about Owen Long, they always mention, oh, he's an athlete. Oh, he's very athletic. He is making plays that, quite frankly, he shouldn't be making because he looks athletic, but if he looks like an 8 in the athleticism chart, he's playing like an 11 on the athleticism chart in actuality, because he just has such a vision for the game, and it's elevated by how he moves on the field, how he goes to the ball, how he can work downfield. He is just he's shining out in spring.
Yeah, and again, this is where we're starting to get to this point where the offense has gone and they've seemed to have locked it in a little bit, and the defense is finally very much answering. But Parker, it is worth mentioning as we talk about this defense, and yes, they had a much better day today than they did earlier. When we talk about this was not a full pads day. This was shoulder pads. This was not full on heavy contact. How much, when we talk about the defense looking a lot better, because defense, they shined pre-pads in the first part of spring practice. They were getting all these takeaways, a really good coverage. And then it felt like once the pads came on, that's when we started to hear about how just dominant the offense was. How much does it matter that this was a shoulder pads day?
I think it's something to keep in mind for sure. But at the same time, defense is one of those things where you can have a great practice, even if this wasn't all pads day. But defense is one of those streaky things where you can have a good practice, but it's about maintaining this consistency. It's great that they had a good practice, but will they have a great practice tomorrow? Will they have a good practice the next day? We'll start talking about how great this defense is, and we'll start singing their praises till the cows come home when they have a string of practices where it's like, okay, they are really piecing it together. Because when it was that playoff run and the defense was really clicking, the ASU had, they were talking about how this defense, every practice is locked in. They are moving so well together. And obviously, it's spring. Nobody's expecting them to be at that point yet. But really, pads, no pads, shoulder pads only. It's all about piecing it together consistently. That's when we'll really start to tell where this defense is at.
And it is also worth pointing out, we talked about Clayton Smith coming back, which is a big shout. Boogie Wilson, right, on the safety side of things, he still held out of contact. So he's able to go run routes and do the different positioning drills, but he's not allowed to go full contact, still recovering from surgery, that's a big thing, right? He's projected to be the starting nickel. So not having him in there is, again, it's nice to see us getting to this point now. You bring Clayton Smith back, have a good day. I'm with you, though. If they have a good week, like what offense had last week, the last 3 or 4 practices, then we're like, okay, we're in a really good spot. Now, it does beg the question, though, because, we've been talking about how, early on in spring practice, oh, no, the offense is it's going to be so bad, the defense is dominant. Now it's like, okay, well, the offense is dominant, defense is going to struggle. Are we ever going to be happy? Like, are we ever going to be? It's so hard to tell in these spring practices. Is it that a unit is elite? And we talked about this the other day. Is it that the unit is elite or struggling? Because you're playing against, you're not playing against other teams. It's not the easiest thing to judge.
Yeah, then it'll be hard to find something to talk about, Phil, if we're good on both sides.
They're just somehow every other throw, it's a 70-yard bomb, but it's an interception off this incredible miracle play. I don't even know how that one is supposed to work. But at the end of the day, the true story here is defense had a great day. They kept there were no chunk plays at practice day. That is the most. When we talk about ASU's history, Parker, talk about how their history of, especially the secondary, letting up 50-yard gains to lose games, not giving up chunk plays is the most important thing that I want to hear.
Yeah, and the most important thing I wanted to hear that I've kind of heard some inklings about at practice, speaking of, is a leader and somebody to step up. And rumblings from Kenny Dillingham and rumblings from AJ Cooper, the linebackers coach at ASU. It seems like Zyrus Fiaseu, a guy who was granted a 6th year of eligibility from the NCAA after an injury that limited to only 4 games last season. He was a transfer, but he was also part of that college football playoff run the ASU had a couple years back. And he is just emerged as he's the leader. He's the vocal voice. He's a guy coming back that has faced adversity, and everybody has respected him. He's been productive at practice, and he's also grown in his ability to lead his teammates. And that's what you want to see from somebody in that linebackers core. We'll see where he ends up. He could be the starter, could be a couple names down, but either way, it is clear that the people and the players in that ASU locker room and the people in that ASU community, they're looking up to Fiaseu and what he's done so far.
That they are, and it's a good point now. We talked about the defense to take stock of where we are about halfway through spring practice. Things are going well, maybe some interesting things, but we'll talk about where ASU as a program stands halfway through spring practice. Other side of this.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
If you've been joining us every single morning, first of all, thank you so much. But make sure to go check out the Everyday Air Club, Locked On Sun Devils at supercast.com. Ad for listening to us in every single Locked On show. Plus, access to a members-only Discord where we all hang out, talk about what a travesty it was that UConn actually lost a national championship. I didn't know it was possible, but hey, there we go. Also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to go and hit the sub button right up there, actually down below. It really helps us out quite a bit. How are you feeling about the state of the defense? Clayton Smith coming back, all right? It's interesting times here. But Parker, we are now halfway through, give or take, halfway through spring season. I think I'm going to start with saying I think we're in a really good spot for where we are. A lot of the pieces that we expected to come in from the transfer portal are really starting to take shape now that they got a big understanding of the system. But my first pointed take here about where we are is Cutter Boley is going to be. I don't think this is a surprising one, but Cutter Boley is going to be QB1 come the fall.
Yeah, that's the takeaways that everybody's had at practice, all the media members, everybody around the ASU program, is that he's going to be the guy. And we'll talk about the quarterback rooms in extents in the coming days, weeks. We're going to talk about the quarterback room plenty. We have a whole summer to get to as well, and a whole fall even. But it seems right now, the way that I see it, the way that I've heard is Boley's the guy. Boley's number one, and it's not confirmed. Kenny Dillingham hasn't said anything, but Boley is the guy. And then Fetty is looking really, really good at practice, and he can vie for that number one spot, but he's most likely a 2 just because he's so young. But he is looking really raw, really powerful, and Dyer's been surprising people. Dyer really has. Cameron Dyer, the wide receiver turned quarterback last year, has really been shining. And Mikey Keene's the one guy that a lot of people expected to have that QB2 spot, kind of be the Jeff Sims, the veteran guy that transfers in and gets some reps. But it's looking like Dyer and Fetty are just above him. But Boley, through his ups and downs early in spring, he has adjusted and he's been looking great. And it's looking like that QB1 spot is just made for him come the fall.
Yeah, the big thing, and I can't 100% attribute this to Boley because Kenny was being a little circumspect when he said this last week, but he was saying, look, we're at the point now where the quarterback room is going great, but there's at least one guy who he's just not making the same mistake twice. He goes and he does something, he throws a pick, he does whatever, makes the wrong read. It doesn't happen again. And given what we know about Cutter Boley's S2 score, that's what it is. That's got to be Cutter, right? That is... I'm very optimistic now. I know we were pretty down on the number of interceptions he was going early on, but young guy, new system. Okay. But moving on, because Cutter Boley, most likely going to be the quarterback. At least that's what we're seeing now halfway through the season. The other big thing on the offense is that we've talked a lot about how Cardae Mack is looking great, but we have enough good running backs that he's probably going to be redshirted. I saw a report yesterday that says that no, he has impressed the coaches so much that even in this incredibly crowded wide receiver room, which is everything it was cracked up to be, we're hearing different names every single day, he is not going to get redshirted. He is going to get significant playing time this season.
Mack in the running back room?
Yeah, Cardae Mack.
Cardae Mack. Yeah, Cardae Mack has really shined with what he's been able to do, because he's one of those guys who seems to just have raw power. And to be so young and to be able to have that, it's one of those intangible things that you can't teach. And I know we've talked about how deep this running back room is, but it seems like our suspicions about it being a running back room by committee, how there's not going to be a clear 1, 2, and 3 come first game of the season, it's going to come true. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe the guy will be determined game 4. Maybe the guy will never be determined. But to have those weapons, to have those choices, because let's face it, any running back in this running back room does a lot of different things and does them very, very well. So whoever they lean to eventually is going to have a great set and is probably going to be put in the best place he can be.
Yeah, I've it's going to be fun to see how this one shakes out. But talking about people coming in, because I feel like Cardae Mack and Fetty to some extent are a bit of an exception here. The big story across positions halfway through the season, Parker, is how good the transfers have been. Amari Miller, highlight. Reed Harris, highlight. Rayton Vines-Bright, not getting quite the notice. He's been great in practice. He's just not quite as highlighting as much. All right. We talked about linebackers coming in, transfers in, looking really good. On a whole, Cutter Boley, obviously, transfer. On a whole, ASU, and we're going to have to, you never know until the season really hits, but I don't remember this being as optimistic about our transfers last year. It does feel like what we're seeing at this stage in the season, we really seem to have hit pretty well with our transfer portal.
I think it's also, there were a lot more needs this year. Although ASU lost a lot of good players, we talked about the NFL draft in yesterday's episode. There are just so many powerful haymakers leaving. Jordan Tyson, Keith Abney, Max Ahanichor, plenty more. Keyshawn Elliott, Shimon Mateer. There were so many guys and veteran pieces on this ASU team that left, ran out of eligibility. And this transfer class that is coming in has big shoes to fill. And I don't know if it's necessarily that they're looking better than previous transfer classes. I think they are, but I don't know if it's clear cut that they're looking better than previous Kenny Dillingham transfer classes. It's the fact that there's so much hype because there is so much that is being asked of them to fill in for this ASU team. Like, ASU is looking for so many transfers to immediately step up and become the guy in that room. Like, we mentioned the wide receiving room, it's been completely rebranded. Yes, there's Jaron Turbo Hamilton, and there's a couple other guys that are returning for ASU. It's not like the whole room is brand new, but it's looking like a lot of the transfers are expected to have immediate impact, which we haven't necessarily seen in these past couple seasons. It's mostly been a transfer comes in, and then they, after a year or half a season, then they make an impact. There are some special circumstances. There's a Levitt or a Jordan Tyson in there, but transfers haven't been expected to make an immediate impact like they have been coming into this season.
And we've also kind of been burned, I think, by transfers in recent years. Look at Kanye Udo. 200, what was it, like 220 yards? Was it like less than 300 yards last year? And he was the big, it'd probably be fair to say he was maybe, if not the jewel of the transfer class, one of the jewels of the transfer class. So it's exciting. That's where I'm sitting. The fact that from what we're seeing right now, the transfers are everything is advertised. And even when it's, an Abbott situation where he had to get taken to task a little bit early on in spring practices, he started to tune it up. Turns out, actually, he's apparently great as a receiving running back as well. He's got good hands. We brought him in just to be the short yardage guy. Apparently, he's great there too. So, in general, our transfers looking great. So, halfway through the year, Boley likely going to be the quarterback. Transfers looking absolutely fantastic. But talk about transfer portal today. As we record this, day one of the basketball transfer window. And the big story is not who came in, but it's who might be staying.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the right people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. This episode's also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S., download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
All right, so today is day one of the basketball transfer portal. It's opened up, and as we said going into the break, Parker, it's not the news of who's coming in. We don't have any of that yet. We got some inklings, some rumors, but nothing hard and fast. But it's the fact that Masamba Diop, who I was 50-50 on whether he would stay or leave, he has not entered the portal as of 4:35 p.m. Arizona time on April 7th, day one of the portal. He is still an ASU Sun Devil.
Yeah, he's still an ASU Sun Devil, and Diop is still a question mark. It's just day one, and I'm sure he's in the same boat as a lot of ASU fans where he's waiting to see what ASU is going to look like, what the coaching staff is going to look like. But I'm sure ASU right now, the people that are there, the people that are attached to the program, they have been talking to Diop. They've been a little birdie close to his ear, just giving him his pitch, because once you enter the portal, it's off the races, and it's very unlikely that you do go back. So we'll see what Diop decides to do. But Noah Mayusin, a big name that I highlighted as a player I really wanted to see stay in the maroon and gold, has put his name in the portal, and the Belgian native gonna head somewhere else. And that is just a massive loss for Randy Bennett, because I thought this was a European guy, a small defensive but three-pointer, a 3-and-D guy, that Randy Bennett has had a couple of those type players over his time in St. Mary's. I thought it would have been perfect transition for him, but Mayusin got wooed by the portal and will not be a part of ASU most likely next season.
And I can't say that I'm too surprised. He was on my list of guys of I would love to have him, but I think he's gone, because for me, he always felt like a Hurley guy. Yeah, he was a bit of a scrapper, which is not to say that other people can't fight, can't be a fighter. And when I say that, I mean not like tossing fists on the field, but just with how he played. It very much felt like a guy that was kind of wooed by this concept of guard you, even if he didn't put up a ton of points per game. And that's not who Bennett's going to be, right? We know Bennett is going to be a much slower game. Yes, you can toss up threes when the time is good, but a much slower game, much more defensively minded game. And I don't know. I just didn't get the vibe. And I know that's not a really, well, I know that's not really scientific, but I I kind of got the vibe that he was going to go. As it stands, there are some names, though. You talk about guards, Parker, and the big story here, of course, is that Diop, as of this point, has not left. Hopefully, we're going to keep him. He is an incredible talent if we can hold on to him, especially in Bennett's new system. But a couple guards have been linked, at least one very important guard have been linked to ASU that I did not have on my radar before the day, because I just thought there was no way we would get someone like him.
Yeah, a lot of fans and a couple of people attached to the university. It seems like that there's just a lot of pessimism around what's available because there's so much unknown about the ASU program. Not that you're expected to miss out on every single recruit, but there's just so much unknown going on with this ASU men's basketball program where it's like, can ASU get a big name guy or what's going on? But getting to your point, Finley Bizjack, a guard out of Butler and rated by a 5-star in many circles, but a 4-star on 24/7 Sports. He is would be a big time name to get for ASU. I look at him as he could potentially be the guy, the number one option for ASU coming in. He's the 39th ranked prospect in the portal according to 24/7 Sports, 6'4", 190, and it's just continued to go up. And I would expect him to end up in, according to 24/7, I would expect him to end up in the low 30s, maybe even his name in the 20s by the end of this portal cycle, just because of how hot his name is getting. And he's linked to 4 schools right now. More could be added, more could be removed, but Indiana, Iowa, and Virginia and Arizona State are the 4 names that have been linked to Bizjack. And this is according to Sportscast Productions as well as Devil's Digest. They're kind of predicting that those are the 4 that Bizjack is going to lead to. And I'm surprised by this. I know you were surprised by this, Phil, but what a get this would be for Bennett.
That immediately takes us from, look, if we can hold on to Diop, which would be awesome, we get Bizjack. I think it's pretty it's hard to tell. I don't think it's unlikely that we get Marashkas. He seemed like he did very well in the Bennett system. 2 of his coaches are over here. That seems like a pretty good likely get. And then if we get the guy from Cal Baptist, who also had a great season last year, that goes from, okay, it's year 1 we're rebuilding, to we should make a run. If we're able to go lock these 2-3 guys down, you need some depth, and ASU taught us painfully so that you need some depth. If we start to get those guys, I mean, that is making a run at the Big 12 tournament. That is maybe not an expectation that you make the NCAA tournament, because who knows how the system's going to get installed, but at the very least, not a surprise if you go hit round to 64. And certainly next year with the expanded tournament, it almost feels like you should if you get those guys.
You should. And I think a big part about this transfer portal is Bennett needs a hit. He needs a hit. And this portal class, obviously, there's so much we won't know until it's finished. And this could just be an overreaction at the start. But we will see if ASU's in win now mode or it's in let's get our bearings mode right after this portal class, because it seems like there's so many question marks, because we don't know who's going to leave and who's going to stay at ASU. We don't know any of the transfer commits that are coming in. The guys that are leaving are kind of, as you said, Mayusin, there was a high likely chance he would leave. Marcus Adams, another one, where it's just like, all right, those guys we kind of expected to leave. Who else? And who's coming in? There's just so many question marks. And I think the big takeaway that we're going to find at the end of this transfer portal window is, okay, this next season, they're going to need to go to work, or this season might just be, all right, let's get our bearings and let's see how Randy Bennett looks with a full year under him. Or it's like, okay, Randy Bennett's coming to play this first year. He is coming to play.
I think the other stories, and I know we talked about, okay, Diop, not in the portal just yet. Santiago Truitt, not in the portal just yet. The other way to look at this is there are only 4 guys from the team last year that are in the portal. And generally, like, you watch portals going in, you say, well, you want to get your name in there as quickly as possible because slots start to fill up. You want to go and like get picked up and have these opportunities. So the fact that we are seeing some relatively impactful players from last year, all things considered, the upper end maybe of the talent that we had sticking around, that speaks volumes about what Bennett's been able to do in the 2 weeks that he's been affiliated with the program. You and I both know he's been having those conversations. He's been talking to Job. He's been talking to Truitt. He's been talking to the rest of the team saying, look, whether it's hey, I'm replacing you. Sorry, you don't fit my system. And I don't think he's going to be that abrupt about it, but being very realistic about where he sees the program going, where these players may or may not fit into it. Mm-hmm. But the fact it does seem right now that he's being very successful in keeping the guys that he wants to keep. Again, we're going to have to see, but 24 hours in seems pretty good. And now the question only, Parker, is whether we get Heineke, whether we go and we get Marauskis, whether we go and what's Lindsay, however you say his last name, whether we get these guys, and whether, again, as you said, is it going to be a rebuilding year, or are we going to make a deep run? Because I think, again, if we get these couple guys that have been linked to ASU in the portal, we're going to be a much better team than we were last year. But that does it for us here today. Transfer portal is heating up. Hopefully we'll have some really interesting news as the week goes on. But for now, we are done. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks, exactly where they all stand. Plus, again, transfer portal talk as we continue to track this. If you've been listening to us every single day, make sure to go check us out at the Everyday Air Club, lockedonsundevils.supercast.com. Again, and if you're listening to us every single other Locked On show, plus members only access to the Everyday Air Club Discord. It's a good time. A lot of good folk out there. But of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On college channel, so you can see what's happening all around the college ecosystem. And if you're listening, Locked On College Basketball, make sure that's your second listen, because yes, the national championship may be over, but transfer portal, not just for ASU, but around the country, it's going to be spicy this year. But for us, for now, we are done. We'll see you tomorrow.